Welcome to the Fabric of America, the podcast that celebrates small businesses and the remarkable stories that weave our communities together. We're your hosts, Melissa Otto
and Matt Banover.
Matt is a fashion designer passionate about storytelling through style.
And Melissa is a seamstress on a mission to make sewing cool again and inspire the next generation. We sit down with small business owners, artisans, and dreamers to uncover the stories behind their brand, what inspires them, challenges them, and keeps them creating.
Because we believe that behind every idea, every design, every stitch, there's a story worth sharing. So grab a drink from your favorite local shop and join us as we weave together conversations about passion, perseverance, and the power of small business.
When we were in LA, there was a couple things that struck me. There was one, I was the only human being I think I saw for 3 days wearing a suit.
Yeah, no one wears a suit in LA.
It was
we learned.
Wild, literally wild. I do not think I saw one of it. Something else that shocked me was that weird little box that rolled through the streets and people had like their food.
Oh yeah, the robot delivery boxes. I forgot about those. Yes, that's real.
And then like the third and last thing was this outfit that this girl wore that had naked girls all over it.
Alysia yes. Cole, our amazing stylist friend. She had on, we're going to have to find it actually and ask her, because I don't think we asked her in the recording who makes that jumpsuit, but she had on this sick jumpsuit that had like this cool, it kind of looked abstract, but when you looked a little closer, it was like naked women in the print. And it was amazing. It was a perfect like spring, summer romper. So we'll have to put that in the show notes. I feel like I need to own that as well. It was a good piece.
Definitely.
It was just amazing.
So we sat down with Alysia. So I didn't know, whatever your dumb saying is, I didn't know Sam from Bob or whatever.
You didn't know her from Adam.
Yeah, whatever that is. So I I met her in LA, didn't really know her, but then apparently you two are pretty good like internet friends and to have a dialogue and a discourse. So I was just happy to kind of be a part. I would have been satisfied just sitting watching you guys talk.
Oh, she's the best. I know.
Clearly like so many topics that you guys had discussed at length before.
Yes. So where that comes from too is because of my group, the Stitch Collective, which was the reason we were in LA for this conference. We held our annual conference there this last February, 2025. And we had asked her to come and just kind of be included because she recently moved to LA. And she's such a brilliant mind and voice in the wedding industry. And what I've always gravitated towards about her is the way that she is, I don't know if advocating is the right word, but I do feel like that she is very genuine, and she creates this amazing space, particularly in the niche for plus sizing and for queer couples. And she does styling. She makes these hysterical viral videos as well, and they're always like a little unhinged, but they always are really good. They're not like where someone would make like this, we'll call it an unhinged topic, or a random thing like a clown wedding or a circus wedding where you're just like, oh yeah, wear a clown costume. It's not like that. It's very like actual like fashion oriented, super well thought out. She kind of goes through like some different, where I'm going with this is she is just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of like positive energy. She is very well educated and versed in, this idea of spreading a message about body neutrality and teaching people what that is, and really creating a safe space for couples to feel able to put their genuine selves out there. And I think that that's so important, especially like in the times that we are living where, the internet can become sort of this cesspool of negativity at times. And I think she's really out there helping create a space and a voice for people to feel really good. And especially on the most important, what they would view up to now as the most important day of their lives, in the joining of union of marriage. And so, yeah, I could go on and wax poetic about her all day. I just think she's the coolest individual. And as I've gotten to know her as both like a colleague and a friend, I have so much respect for her. I think she's just the absolute coolest.
I could definitely pick up on that mutual admiration between you two. And it was really nice to see and witness. and just be a part of. So now we get to allow the listener to be a part of it. So please enjoy our episode with Alysia Cole.
I always just personally love an origin story because I actually, like you and I have been connected now for a good chunk of time, but I don't feel like I know your full like origin story for how you got into what you're doing now with the styling and kind of your representation in your niche. So I would love for you to just share with the listener like who you are, what you do, and then let's get into the fun story of how you got here.
Oh, sure. So my name is Alysia Cole. I am a personal bridal stylist and a wedding content creator, is how I guess I would label myself. Um, how I got here. Okay, I'm gonna try and do the like too long didn't read version because this is like the sweeping tale. I went to school for theater education. Like my degree is nothing to do with weddings or events or fashion. I was really determined to be a theater, like a drama teacher. And I taught basically every age group, and every year I'd be like, I don't like this age group. And I got to the point where I was teaching preschool, like gentle separation classes for 2-year-olds in like a very bougie Chicago neighborhood, where I was like, oh, maybe it's not the age group. I think I'm just not cut out for education. And I had always loved weddings, but I never considered that as an actual option for myself. And I think a big part of it is like as a plus size person, you don't think about fashion in particular as an option for you. Like there's not necessarily that space. But I took a leap of faith and was very lucky that a shop in Skokie, Illinois hired
Oh,
me
nice.
um to be their new bridal stylist. And at the time they were very small. They've expanded to like 4 times the size. Love to see it. But it was one of those like I'm in my like 20s in Chicago. I have to take a bus and 2 trains to get to my job in Skokie, but I had never been happier. I like this was the job where I was like, "Oh my God, I'm finally happy working." And I had no retail experience. I only had customer service experience and a can-do attitude. And I was like, all they needed, I was blessed with an incredible manager who knew fashion, who knew construction, and as well as sales and how to work with newlyweds. And I think if it wasn't for her, I don't know how much I would have loved it or how educated I would have felt. But she was the best, and I loved that job so much. And then from there, my husband Monty and I kind of moved around a lot, and everywhere we went, I would try and find bridal work, which if you had a little bit of bridal experience, it wasn't terribly difficult in like the late 2010s to get a job. So I've worked at places like I worked at a very luxe place on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills where
No
the
way.
dress cost like, twice what I would make in a year. I've worked
Wow.
I've worked at bridesmaids only places in like a basement. I've kind of been all over the place, worked at some incredible places that work specifically with independent and sustainable designers. And then uh my last job that was full-time with someone else was with a national bridal chain that no longer exists, RIP. Um, and I ran the customer care department for this national bridal chain. And I put all my eggs in that basket. I was like, we're gonna change the industry, baby. And then it was absolute hell. And we didn't make it through COVID. And
Um,
being the final boss during COVID, during like, January
Yeah.
2020, people are like, why are my dresses delayed? And it's like, well, they're coming from China. And I know you don't know anything about this thing called COVID yet,
Yeah.
but we're starting to see that. And then like a different conversation, April of 2020, of what do you mean I can't get a refund? And doing that for months and months kills your soul a little. I got shingles. I got stress shingles for that job.
wow.
So when the CEO got us all on a call November of 2020 and was like, after this call, you're locked out of everything, the company's dead. It was kind of a blessing. It was
Yeah,
also
right.
like a clusterfuck, but like it was a blessing in disguise. Not for all of the brides that were screwed over, but shout out to all the stylists in all the different cities that like broke into the physical
Yeah,
brick and mortar
right.
to like hand off brides their dresses.
Hell
It was
yeah.
it was beautiful to see. But yeah, so after that I was like, I can't work for anyone else, actually. I have to work for myself. And throughout all of this, since like 2015, I've been helping friends and friends of friends on the side to find their dresses. And I was like, I know I have the capability, the knowledge, I can do this. Let's just try it. What's the worst that could happen? And so that was the end of 2020. And I've been doing the personal bridal styling since.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
And
That's
Did
that's the journey.
you find that you were just like kind of starting in that smaller space and like, hey, just hustler mentality, got to keep like working, working, working with whatever clients you could get? Or were you like starting to gain that traction with your internet presence at this point? Was it kind of going in tandem? Did one thing follow after the next?
It was a little bit of hustler of like, let's see who would want to work with me.
Yeah.
At the time, my like internet presence wasn't exactly popping off. I was all over the place on TikTok. Like I wasn't bridal specific even
Yeah.
then.
yeah.
So what I was doing was working with wedding planners in the Chicago area who were looking for people to help things that are outside of their planning package. And so I was doing a lot of that and also like other friends of friends connections, whoever just felt like a little lost and wanted some hand holding.
Yeah.
And I was pretty Chicago specific at the time. I wasn't doing virtual like I am now.
Yeah. How did you find, or did you always kind of know in the beginning your niche? And there was something you said when you were talking about working for the major bridal chain where you were like, we're going to change the world. Like, I'm trying to fish a little bit for where we're going here. But did you feel like you already had this idea of where your identity was going to take you, or like where you wanted to niche into, or was that kind of something that developed later?
Wait, hold
Yeah.
on. Hold on.
Oh,
I wanna before that question, I wanna did you know like that retail was the space to do that? Was there
Mm,
a moment that you thought maybe there's a calling, maybe I should go into something else?
mm.
Or was it retail, then you found the niche? Like which came first, chicken or the egg kind of a thing?
I think it is they go hand in hand.
Uh,
Because to answer your question, the underlying theme of so much of this, like I had my very first bridal boutique that I worked at, I was planning my own wedding while I was working there. Like a lot of people. And I was like, oh yes, this is great. But as a plus size person, I was lucky to be at a boutique that had plus sizes. But even when I was looking for my own dress at that time, this was 2015, 2016, it was like there's nothing. Every place I called in Chicago proper was told me they could pin a dress to me, that they didn't have a size 16.
right.
And so that was a big push for me of like, oh, I am in the right space because one, I can see these newlyweds come into this boutique that does have plus sizes, and I am hearing their stories about how frustrated they are, and I deeply resonate with that frustration. I'm experiencing it myself. And so much of bridal didn't represent me, the people in my life, my friends, and when I was helping style people on the side, it was like a constant of, well, this industry isn't for me, but I have to find something. And that feeling of like, it is for you though, or it should be. We should be doing better. So I think it's both. To answer your question, it's like I loved this. Retail was the only option. I would get a lot of people that are like, "Do you want to do wedding planning?" Absolutely, I do not. Absolutely, I couldn't do that job. You couldn't pay me enough to be a wedding planner. I love them so much. It's not a job I could do. Um, There is something special, I think, to helping someone during such like an emotional time in their life feel like the best version of themselves and feel like getting there isn't a struggle.
Yeah. I it took me a long time in retail to kind of figure out what that was.
Mm.
And, I started at Express and then Joseph A. Bank, then a boutique store. And along that journey is when it started to kind of crystallize. And I started to realize it, which is kind of why I asked that question, because I remember that same kind of moment you had where you were thinking, okay, well, I've got all this customer service experience. Like, what do I do? I had like kind of the reverse where at one point I had worked 3 different retail jobs. And then I was like, well, I like dealing with people, but I've never done anything else. Maybe I should go into hospitality. And I did
Mhm.
that and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I lasted 3 months. And so but that helped me because every no gets you closer to a yes. Just because
Mhm.
something's not for you doesn't mean it's irrelevant. I was like, oh, so this is so helpful because I realized what I wanted was the longevity of the relationship. I wanted a relationship. And with the hotel, the better the relationship, the less you saw of that person. So I I started to move into like, okay, like boutique retail. Now these people calling, texting, we're going to each other's birthdays. It was like this whole thing. They were bringing their kids, they're bringing their grandparents, they're bringing their friends. You'd work with one wedding, like the person getting married, and then a year down the road, that person would get married, like a groomsman or a bridesmaid would get married. And it would just like, that was the relationship I want. And then through that 10-year period is when I figured out, oh, stories. Like I care about every person's story and I
Mm.
want them to feel seen and be heard and feel like they're a part of something. Um, what like if you could, you kind of alluded to it a little bit just about you want to make these people feel seen and such an important part. Is there a specific moment or a specific feeling that you love to get out of people? Like for me, like I said, it's a story. When somebody says this fabric reminds me of my grandmother and wearing it keeps it alive, it's not about the fit. It's not about where it's constructed. It's like that moment where somebody
Uh-huh.
pulls it out. Is there something in there in bridal, in all the styling?
Yeah. I feel like so one of the questions I always ask at the start of any like onboarding is I ask a newlywed how they want to feel on their wedding day. And a lot of times people will be like, well, know I want a ball gown and I know I want, and I have to go, no, no, no. We back up. How do you want to feel? Like what are the feeling words?
Yeah.
Um, and something I hear a lot is I know I want to feel like myself. And usually these are people I'm meeting for the first time. So then my follow-up question is something like, can you give me an example of a garment that you've worn that makes you feel like you? And we kind of try and pull that apart. But I think a lot of people struggle with they know they want to feel like themselves, but they don't actually know how that translates
Ooh,
um,
yeah.
Yep.
into wedding. Yeah. You get that? Um, so for me, sometimes it happens on that first call when they've sent me like a hodgepodge Pinterest board and they're not quite sure what they like, but I can see the connections and I try and reflect back what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from them and that moment where they're like, "Oh, that is me. Oh, yes." And sometimes it happens on the call, which is great. Sometimes it happens when we're trying dresses on.
Yeah.
And that feeling of like someone puts on an outfit and they're like, "Oh, this I'm wearing this. It's not wearing me and I feel like myself." That moment is so rewarding of like, we did it. We didn't even know exactly how we would get here.
Yep.
We have found something that gives you permission to be yourself on your wedding day.
Do you find a lot of people that you've worked with, like, almost almost are finding themselves for the first time in a way sometimes, like finding their true, like, best self, most beautiful self. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you're talking about giving them permission, right? To openly express themselves or like vibe in a certain way. Have you had a lot of experiences where people are like kind of coming into that space almost in a way for the first time?
I think so. Or there's just, a different gravity to it.
Sure.
Um, for like the ritual of their wedding, it's maybe the first time they're allowing themselves to really ask those questions. And because I work with a lot of people who are either plus size, like a lot of people who are looking for something more non-traditional, a lot of queer folks, it's like they're already feeling like they're breaking some kind of rule of just like by who they are, which I
Yeah,
have so many thoughts and feelings on.
I
But
know. Ugh.
there is this feeling of oftentimes of people taking it really seriously in like a beautiful way, I think, of like they know they want this look to be something. Um and they're just not quite sure how to get to that point.
Yeah.
But it is really I think beautiful to see people give themselves that space
Yeah.
or like tiptoe into it. Half of my
Sure.
job is literally giving permission. I swear. Like it really is just being like, yes, you can do that
Nope.
for your wedding. Absolutely. Let's go.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I think, and you and I have had so many interactions anyway, and I know I've said this to you before, but I'm going to say it out loud in a public space that I have so much respect for you as a person in the space of what you do because I find that you are very both comforting and brave. And I think it speaks to who you are as a person anyway, because I think you show up very genuinely. But I think then when you take that and people, you've created a comfortable and safe space for people to allow them to step into that truth and that power for themselves. And I think that's such an amazing talent that not everybody possesses, to make someone feel like an immediate sense of comfort and vulnerability almost, you know?
That's very, very nice. Thank you so No, it's very kind. That is always like my hope. That's always going to be my hope. Is that folks can feel that comfort because so much of the wedding industry is uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Totally. All right.
Yep.
On a more fun, positive note, um, I want to know when the like plus queer fairy godmother like tag came into all of this. Like when did that start? Did you come up with that? Did someone else like coin it to you and you're like, I'm running with this? Like I just think it's the sassiest like subtitle.
Yeah, so on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for the longest time, my bio was just your fat queer fairy godmother.
Yep.
Um, I can't remember. I don't know
Where
where
it
I came
started.
up
Oh my
with
God, I love
I
it.
think it was just me being like, I'm a big proponent of fat isn't a bad word. I am a tall woman. I'm a fat woman. It's a neutral. And I really lean into that. Um, Discovering that I'm queer later in life, to be honest with you, was like a huge part of every part of my life, including this business. And that was important. And I don't know, I love that phrase. I will, since we're talking about it, it's actually not my Instagram bio anymore. I found um Instagram Meta in particular was really suppressing
Really?
my my platform,
I would
and
love to say I'm surprised, but I don't think I'm surprised.
but I talked with a bunch of other people, photographers especially, who had queer in their bio, and experimented with removing that and removing fat and playing around with like, and it was like I got rid of it and my everything came right back, which is like so shitty. So I still have it on TikTok and I still have it on Threads,
Yeah.
but it was one of those where I had to make the call of like, what's more important, my content getting seen by the people who I really want to see it, who I think can benefit from what I'm saying,
Right.
or having this title.
Yep.
Um, what is interesting though, when I have removed that title, people do automatically assume I'm straight.
Ah.
and, and so that's been like another like interesting
Yeah.
the identity part of
Assumptions.
been interesting.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I'm always going to be your fat queer fairy godmother.
I love it. I love that you put it in all the videos. It just every time I'm like, oh, oh, there she goes again. Pop off. Like I just love it. So that's a perfect segue. I want to talk about your like styling videos that you did. Like what was the first viral moment? Like how did that all start? Like explain it to the listener first who doesn't know you. Like tell them what you do, and these are just amazing. If you don't follow her, like please go follow and watch all of these styling videos. They're amazing.
It's just all a little unhinged, where people send in their suggestions of very niche wedding themes for their bridal look. And I say, I play a character essentially who says a big yes. Absolutely. I'm going to take your very niche, possibly unhinged theme, and we're going to take it very seriously, and we're going to find you something. And it's just it's like a creativity thing where I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure. You want to look like this can of deodorant. Let's go. Let's try and figure it out. It started because I saw a TikTok of someone kind of making fun of a bride, of someone being like, when brides think they're so special and they think their theme is so unique. And it was someone digging at that. And specifically, they had a quote about like, oh, I'm actually going to be like in a clown costume or something like that. And in my brain, I'm like, we could do clown bridal. That's not even a problem. Right. And I just stitched it on TikTok, being when I would be in appointments, especially in LA, when I was working with boutique, I would lean into a Midwestern accent because people responded to it really, really well, especially for someone who's in LA. I'm born and raised in Seattle. I don't have a Midwestern accent.
Yeah.
But for that character, for my like customer service character, it's easy for me to just go right into it. And I can't help it. And so that first video was just me being like, okay, honey bunch, so you want to be a clown for your wedding day. Let's look at some of my top recommendations, and then just going with it. And people really liked it and had other ideas. And it's fun. They take a lot of work, so I wish I could pump out more than I currently do, but it's such a fun thing to do with the community and like play around with it. And what's been most interesting and surprising about that series is how many people have said it's actually allowed them to it's given them permission to do what they want on their wedding day. Yep. Even though it's kind of like a bit, it's a little jokey joke, but it has also in a way allowed people to be like, well, if she can come up with all these like bat wedding dresses, why can't I just wear something that's black? And that's been fun.
This makes me think of a common topic that comes up here, and I'm sure in your personal life and with every human being that we know that has taken the leap to start their own thing. This concept of imposter syndrome. Now, if imposter syndrome is on one end, I'm on the opposite. Like I'm probably like you, Alysia, like,
delusional main character energy. I told you.
Exactly. Like I'm not here to tell anybody that I'm the most knowledgeable person about making garments. I never claim that. So I don't feel like an imposter. Yeah. I'm the best at me today, and the best me today knows very little, and I'm okay with that. So I don't have imposter syndrome. Like I'm not pretending to be anything that I'm not. Like I very much lead with there's a ton I don't know. I think Melissa's pretty much in the same boat. She's a little bit better than I am at holding space for people who do claim to have imposter syndrome. I have a lot less sympathy for that. But what's been your kind of relationship with that term, that phrase? How do you show up for your business and your knowledge? Because it does feel like it's been a very organic kind of journey.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I started, the imposter syndrome was very real because while I had plenty of experience in boutiques, being a personal bridal stylist is different. And I knew that. And I was truly making it up. Like personal bridal styling is still, I think, a pretty niche or luxe wedding vendor to have. Um, and 5 years ago, even more so, right? And so I was really flying by the seat of my pants. I remember telling one wedding planner what my rate was for a styling package, and she thought I meant that was the hourly rate. And I was like, no, that's just what I'm charging. And it was like that, where it was like really affecting me, where I was like, I can't charge for this. Like, I haven't done it enough. I don't know. And it only took me a few times to realize, one, how much time I'm putting into every single client, and two, how much I do know. Like, of course I do know things, for me to recognize my worth, understand what I'm doing. And I think a big part of that was also understanding what I like doing. As well as where my like knowledge gaps are. Like I said, I haven't been to any sort of fashion school. I don't really sew well. Like, I know that there are gaps in my knowledge, and I'm never going to pretend like I know everything about dress construction. I would never. Like, but what I do know is I have a lot of people who I can talk to about that. I have the connections for it. I have like there I know where my knowledge gaps are, and I know how to fill them in a way that serves my client. So in what way am I an imposter?
Wow.
I think
I
Amen. Yeah,
love this.
yeah.
All right, well, let's just put this on a loop.
What has helped is also seeing people in the styling world, bridal in particular. We're seeing a lot of folks who don't have any experience in shops, any experience in fashion, any education in it, who have just gotten married and maybe have really good taste, claim that title of stylist, and then start being content creators while also starting to take on clients. And that is where I get really nervous, where I'm like, even if you have excellent taste and you have some connections, there's so much more to this job and taking care of your client than that. And so there have been moments where I'm like, I'm not going to be an imposter, because I have the experience to back up what I'm doing. And there are people out there with none of my experience who are building huge platforms and taking on clients and saying that they can do it. And
Yeah.
maybe their clients are super happy. I hope they are. I hope genuinely, I hope they are. Uh but that has honestly also helped. I have also started talking with some like either younger stylists or people who, like me, have been in a boutique for a while and are looking to freelance, and their imposter syndrome is so strong, and I want to shake them, because I'm like, you've been styling for 6 years in a boutique. You know so much more than some of these people who are out here pretending. And that pep talk, I go, oh, I needed that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there are people out there with the experience, and there are people out there who are doing the same thing without any experience and are having a great time.
Yeah.
So why not?
And again, it's almost like a fellow professional who's been around the block, right? Giving permission in a way, right? Like validating someone's experience to say like, yeah, no, I see you. Like, you're good enough. Don't ever question that. Like, it's,
You can do
you're worth it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's cool. That's really cool. You fill my cup. Just talking to you fills my cup. It really does. I think like, obviously getting into this business is not without its struggles. Also being, I think, a huge presence on social media has its ups and downs. Can you share with the listener a little bit about what that experience has been like for you? Overarchingly positive, bouts with the negative. How do you kind of come through all of that? People have no filter behind a keyboard, shall we say. So yeah, just I would love to hear your stories.
I think the biggest like lesson I have learned with being online has been like a reflection moment of one of my biggest triggers is being misunderstood. I hate when I have put something out there and people have taken it the wrong way, or like what I have said like hasn't been understood clearly. And those moments I get so frustrated where I'm like, okay, I have to make like 5 more videos so that
To
people
explain
understand,
it. Yeah.
to explain it. And it's like this heavy feeling. And it took me a while to realize some people want to misunderstand you, especially online. There is like a gap sometimes of empathy, where people don't want to give you the benefit of the doubt. Or especially as a fat person, people don't don't want to be nice. Um, and so there have been a lot of times where I'm talking about different struggles for that nearly weds can like relate to. And sometimes those like comments and DMs are not from random internet people, but they are from people in the industry. And that's also been like really frustrating because because it's that feeling of being misunderstood again and also not being heard. And so that can be really challenging. Um, but the flip side of that is how wonderful like so much of the feedback is, and how many people just want to like who are not my clients, who just like have followed me for a while or something, who will send me pics of their engagement ring or and be like, I'm so excited, or send me their wedding photos. And like, I also get a ton of people who say they never have any intention of getting married, but they really have a great time here. And it's actually helped them express themselves in different ways. And so it's like all of those make it so much more worth it than any of the negative. But it does. I mean, there are times where I do have to like hide my phone from myself. Because otherwise I'm going to start arguing with people online who are hell bent on misunderstanding me. And
Not
that's not,
productive use of your time, is it?
it sure isn't. It sure isn't.
I have a question that is pretty personal, but I feel like you're the right person to ask. There's a lot of people that hitch themselves to a brand. I'm the fat queer stylist. I'm this. We saw this similar thing happen with the actress Rebel Wilson. She was like, I'm fat Amy, I'm this. But then does it ever get tiring constantly saying that and constantly saying, do you ever just want to be a bridal stylist? And that's it.
Yeah.
Does it get overwhelming just to feel like you have to show up again and again for marginalized people? Does it feel like a lot? Does it feel like a good responsibility? Does it feel like a burden?
I mean, that's a really valid, real question. And it's, oh, I have so many thoughts and feelings.
Hear them all.
Oh, so we're doing therapy. I did.
Yeah, I almost cried getting that question out because it's a very real question, and
It is. In terms of like sharing my identifiers, I will never get tired of that. Because that's just like who I am. If they stop feeling authentic, if something like changes there, then that's gonna have to be something, a different conversation I have with myself, right? But sharing who I am, no. I think what I do experience sometimes is frustration that uh I am put in that plus size box often, and that isn't who I don't just serve plus size people. And my interests in bridal fashion often expand like past designers that are size inclusive. And that's sort of a difficult place that for me to exist, because I want to often talk about things I'm seeing at New York Bridal Fashion Week or at Barcelona. But I also know that those designs will never come in plus size. They also won't be, like financially available to the majority of people, but can I still talk about it? And sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes I get a lot of people who will be upset when I like do a designer breakdown or a collection breakdown and it's not size inclusive or not big bust friendly or something like that. And so I do feel a little, I get it. Like on one hand, obviously I get it. Those people aren't mad at me. They're mad that this beautiful design isn't available in sizes that would fit like the majority of American women. And that's a perfectly fine thing to be angry about. I think I sometimes get frustrated with that box. Um, so I mean, there's that. I also am I'm very particular with like in terms of content creation, who I work with and who I am uplifting either in paid content or in not. So things like, I don't know, if I really was like, damn, I need to make a lot of money fast. I have no morals. I'd become an Amazon fashion influencer and I know that I'd be able to make bank. It would be easy. I already have the community. Some people would hate it, and a lot of people would be like, I also need cheap clothes. Great, that's fine. I know how to style them. I'd show people how to do it. Everything in their Amazon cart that they buy with whatever link I've shared, I get a portion of. And I won't do that because I have, because that's important to me, right? I give myself full permission to change this at any time if I become desperate. But like that, where there are rules I have in place for myself that I feel sometimes like pushed up against, and there are rules or expectations that other people put on me that I feel frustrated by. I understand them all though. And at the end of the day, I do think it's doing more good. And also it's like such a privilege, right? Like it's such a privilege to be able to even be in that box and have eyes on me and people listening to what I have to say about these issues that do matter to me. Um so yeah, to answer your question, I think there is definitely like moments of like, woof. I wish I could just talk about this without being like, also their size chart sucks. I know, guys. Anyway.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think it's worth
Thank,
it.
thank you very much for answering. That was a question.
It was
Uh,
good.
you answered it very gracefully.
I think that might be a good segue into, Alicia, tell me if I'm on the right track with this, but this idea of body neutrality that you and I have talked about in circles before, and maybe even just like sharing with the listener what that means.
Yeah.
Sharing with
I
you
want
what
to
that
hit
means.
on both. I mean, so body neutrality is um you've heard of body positivity, which is, really embracing and loving, rallying around your body exactly as it exists. And a lot of people find that to be either too difficult, too lofty of a goal, or not the real goal that they are going after. And body neutrality offers sort of a different point of view, which is there are no good bodies or bad bodies, there are just bodies. And trying to just embrace yourself for where you are now and for where you were and for what can possibly change, and not trying to force yourself to be like, I love that one mole on my back that always looks weird. I love it. And instead just being like, I have it. It's there and that's okay. I know that it's not hurting me. It's fine. So
Why am I
honoring
just
that.
hearing about this? This is so sick. What? What?
Yeah.
That's like I love that because yeah, I've never rallied behind body positivity because it's just it. I get accused of toxic positivity all the time. Like
I'm
it,
chuckling because that's true.
yeah. But it's like that feels like exactly the same. The body positivity is just like, forcing, like we all feel awful some days. And it's like okay to feel like shit some days,
Yeah.
and but it's also okay to not feel like shit and to just be okay. Like,
Yeah.
I do love that whole neutrality aspect.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about like fat acceptance as the start of all of these.
Mm,
So I think it's important to remember that body positivity, that movement really was a co-opting of the fat acceptance movement. And a watered down version. And I think from there, body neutrality is trying to maybe make strides towards fat acceptance. At my heart, I'm always going to be like fat positive, fat acceptance because what that is actually fighting for is not just a mentality, but also like laws, like regulating that you can't fire someone because they're fat, or fighting for like health safety in our like Medicare system for fat people. Like I think it's important always when we're talking about body positivity or body neutrality to note like where this has all started, which is the fat acceptance movement years and years and years ago.
What have you seen like over the years in your experience? And we can talk about it kind of as it centers around wedding industry in particular. How has there been like a public or a designer response to this movement and kind of this shifting into the more neutral tone of voice we'll talk about, that we talk about in,
Yeah.
we'll call almost behind closed doors. We're not behind closed doors, but like in our circles, right? I feel like we have a crew that we run with who feel very passionately about these ideas of size inclusivity, of gender identity inclusivity, racial inclusivity, and things of that nature, and kind of pushing that envelope forward. And there was a time not that long ago where it seemed like maybe the world was rallying behind these things too. And take it away, Alicia. Like, where are we now? What do we need?
It really shows how much of that in like the 2010s, like mid to late 2010s, it was just lip service. People, these designers, these brands, they're protecting their wallets. They did not give a fuck about plus size. They didn't. And the second that they could abandon it, they did. Um, None of that it's hard because as a plus size person, I especially think of like younger women who maybe were teenagers during the height of that. It maybe it was lip service. It also had very real benefits. Being able to be like a teen and seeing plus size models and having like fashion available in their size, that did make an impact. The hard part is like it didn't stick because that's not actually ethos that anyone put on. They were just like, "Okay, cool. I guess we have to do this or else we're gonna get canceled." Like that's the feeling. And we're seeing it now completely swing the other way. And it's I think a huge I don't know how deep we can get on this. It's a fabric of America, though, right? So let's talk about
Let's do it.
um like we're seeing it swing so dramatically the other way. It feels to me back to 90s and early aughts, like thin as in heroin chic bullshit. Both in terms of availability in sizes and in whiteness. I talked a little bit about this past New York Bridal Fashion Week, and I straight up ran numbers of everything that was on the CFDA calendar, and went through every single show that I could find, um, clocking both any curve or plus size models and anyone who was like I felt very confident was white. And it was just such a stark thing to look at. Um, and we see this in times of fascism. Um, and everything is connected. A lot of people like to tell me it's not that deep. It is that deep. Um, it's all connected, and we are seeing things become less and less available. And it isn't just sizes. It's illusion tools that aren't just porcelain. Like it's there are so many aspects, I think, of weddings, but also just clothing in general, that has swung a different way, and it's hard to see.
Mhm. There's a very common topic that gets brought up a lot these days in the wedding world. I want to know, one, your take, and since we're nearing the end, two, your hopefully optimistic look in the future. We're
Realistic.
with realistic, optimistic, either one. Uh, your this anxious generation that we have, they can't make decisions. It's a nightmare. They book last minute. They second guess themselves. are you seeing that in your work now? And like kind of what do you think could be and what do you hope could change?
I talk a lot in my personal life about how grateful I am that MySpace only started as a thing when I was in high school, because I existed online as a middle schooler in high school. High schooler, one, I would have done some stupid shit. And two, I think it would have really messed with my brain. I am an anxious person. I have an anxiety disorder. And my heart breaks for people who have had to grow up under a microscope, I think the way Gen Z has. And they're oftentimes with Gen Z clients, when they want comfort, they're wanting like, I think like a promise that they aren't going to get ripped apart. And which is not something we can provide because the internet is often a mean place. And also for weddings in particular, part of your wedding has now become sharing it online in some way. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of people are finding that actually a fun creative part of their wedding, of like how they want to show it online. Or maybe how they want to just do little sneak peeks and they don't want to show it. I feel like there's actually like kind of a swing in that generation also of counterculture of not oversharing online. Um I think, yeah, I don't know what that's gonna look like for weddings in the future. I hope that they still have, like, a good experience, and, like, are grounding themselves. That's my hope for them. I think as vendors, our job is to not place judgment and instead just try and figure out the best ways we can support them through what is a ritual of like change, and every generation's gonna approach that ritual a little different, and yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I don't know.
I
I
have
lost
thoughts.
That's
lost
well
it a little.
said. No, well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, any wrapping up thoughts?
Well, one of our traditions as we've come to do on the show is to ask our guests to shout out some of their favorite like local brands, local shops. If it's something near and dear to you, it doesn't have to be necessarily wedding related, but if you want to, if there's just somebody that you feel very passionately about is a great business owner, great business for people to know, we'd love for you to share a couple of your hottest peeps.
Oh, absolutely. I am wearing a dress from Bacall, who is size inclusive LA designer. Love her. Um, Also just down the street by Vinnick, is another wonderful designer who does a lot of really cool like opera coats and big bold
Mm.
textures and colors, and she's fabulous. Also just shout out, they just happened. Thick Thrift is in LA, and it is a plus size like sort of flea market that happens like once a month or so. And it's a great place for fat folks to get their clothes either secondhand or from independent smaller businesses. And it's a really good community time too.
That's awesome.
Love it. Yeah, when we met at the Stitch Collective in LA, and I didn't know anything about you. Didn't know
I
who you
wouldn't
were.
expect you to. It's
Yeah,
okay.
you were just sitting in front of me, and I took a sounds so fucking creepy. I took a picture of your outfit because it was the jumpsuit with the naked girls, and I sent it to like 5 of my friends. I was like, "You need this thing," and every single person was like, "That's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life." And then later that day, I find out that you're like this celebrity.
Well, celebrities, they're just like us.
Yeah,
Oh my
literally.
God.
I was
Niche
like, "Wow!" I was just
micro internet celebrity. Like,
yeah, it was so crazy. I literally was just like, I remember, I think I was in a group with like me, Sarah, and Melissa, and we're talking, and Melissa was like, "You're talking about like, oh yeah, like, oh my gosh, like
You need to
Alicia,
know her. Like,
this, that." And I was
amazing.
like, What? Which one's Alicia? Like,
I 100% shamed you into it, and I don't care. I'm not mad about it at all. Like, how dare you not know?
yes, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go get an autograph.
You should.
I think right after that, I went up and I was like, hey, just like whatever, if you want a selfie, like for no other reason.
Funny. My husband will be like, no, Alicia, like, because we will, every time we go somewhere that's like a fair or something, it's usually like one person will be like, do you do those weird wedding videos? And I'll be like, yeah. And that's my little claim to fame. But
I love that so freaking much. That's excellent. Keep making the videos.
Yeah,
I will. I will.
The internet thanks you.
And we thank you
for having me, y'all. This was so lovely.
We appreciate you. Thank you again for taking the time out with us and for shouting out all of the amazing brands and everything and just sharing like your depth of knowledge. And again, I hope if there's nothing else that the listener takes away from the conversation, it's just really this sense of genuine human connection that I feel like you really do bring, not just to your online presence, but to your work with your clients and to your messages with, fellow professionals and really trying to be like a change maker. I think it's so important. So I know you won't, I don't know. I know I don't have to tell you, like, don't stop, keep doing what you're doing. But for like, I think also something that we talk about a lot is that, sometimes it feels like you're almost screaming into the void. Like, is my message getting through? Or am I saying, like, you said about your intention or people understanding what you meant by something? As someone who's watched you now for a good amount of time, I feel like you're doing it. And I feel like you succeed all the time in what you do put out there. And I think it just takes someone like one minute of getting to watch, one of your amazing styling videos or talking about a topic that you're really passionate about to know that like this is the genuine you and that you're just trying to do something great in the world. So I think it's getting out there perfectly. So thank you for that. Keep doing it.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. That's so kind. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being a guest with us. Thank you to the listener for tuning in to another episode of The Fabric of America.